Well, pros in the wild from last week, talking about the pooper, the guy who pooped in front of Tom Curren. And I was like, at the end of that, I was like, are these stories now feeling a little bit far-fetched? You and I got a voice note from Mark McInnes in the Pacific Northwest who called
Yes.
into question a previous pros in the wild, which was about the Mysto Pro who showed up at some Pacific Northwest beach, paddled out when none of the other local chargers would, and just got flogged and ended up coming in having not caught a wave. And Mark was like, dude, that story sounds fake to me. He's like, unless the reader intentionally smoked screen Pacific Northwest and it was actually somewhere else, maybe it's California, because he's like, I know any big wave spot in Oregon and Washington that can hold that size of swell. And here's the problems with that story. So Mark kind of picked that one apart. And then I, of course, called into question the last one, but I got an email back from the guy who called in the last one. And he said, hey guys, my poop in the wild with Tom Curren is 100% true. I am safe from any and all karmic negativity. I am also well and truly blessed karmically because it can only be a good thing to be spreading stories about our heroes. And growing up in Goleta, Santa Barbara, I have plenty more. Your doubts about the veracity can only arise from how epic it is. And I understand that. Your suggestion that I might be subject to karmic retribution, however, is an interesting proposition, and I'm going to turn it back on you both. You might have some Tom Curren based karma coming your way. Brace yourselves. You see, my story about Tommy body surfing in a deserted and freezing cold morning in trunks in the dead of winter was in the lead for the best pros in the wild last year and would have won me a surfboard. It was genre defining. But alas, you had a rare guest on the show and they just picked whatever was the last story he heard and he thought that it was the best one. I forgot who he was. I forget who he was, but he had a full-on golden retriever chasing a ball type vibe about each story. So the vote went to a layered story because it was the most recent one. Layered over Tommy. You might consider making a candle out of surf wax and burning it at a shrine. I I'd for sure say a prayer or two, or better yet, let's just settle the karmic balance issue and send me a new surfboard.
Done and dusted. Come to the boardroom. If you're slick-handed, you could probably walk out with one.
Do you
Uh,
remember? So I didn't realize this. He was the one who told a story a year ago about Tom Curren body surfing in
which
the
was an
middle of
epic one,
winter.
but who did we have pick the
I think
best?
I think the
Who's the
story that
cool one?
won was Laird doing the helicopter spin on the nose of the surfboard.
Which was an epic story though.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
let's just be frank about how great that story was. But who's the golden retriever?
Was it Devin?
I mean, it makes sense that it was Devin, but Devin doesn't have golden retriever vibes.
I don't know. I don't remember who picked the winner, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't either.
We
I can't even
that's
remember
a
that we had
that's a
somebody
thing
pick
that
the winner.
listeners don't real or maybe they do realize. We roll week to week to week to week to week and have other shows and other jobs going on at the same time. I forget what we said the moment we shut off the mics. Already forgotten what we said at the beginning of the show. The moment we shut off the mics, I forget. And then for the next week, I get a bunch of DMs that are like, "Hey, man, I wanted to, disagree with the point that you made about this." And I'm like, I don't even remember. I don't remember that conversation, much less saying it.
When I get the DMs, I do remember, and then I'm like, oh man, I should have thought that out better.
I
Like I was
always I feel that way.
I was wrong. And I mean, like I don't always, but often I feel, oh, I went like, but that's how else are you going to do this show without going straight shooting from the hip?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm just trying to explain the flubs along the way.
Yeah, but also, great story. Poop, Tom Curren was again a top, it's in the running this year,
Eric
along
and
with whatever I put as number one last week.
that's Eric and SB. I forgot to say his name, but yeah, for the record, I knew even when I called into question the validity of the story, I felt bad saying it because I knew that I was talking about him. I didn't think that he was lying. I was just making a general statement. So
I do feel though, because I forgot about the McKenna skull too, where I feel like that was in because Mark did a very good job
point
of
by point.
poking holes in that story.
He was like, in that story, there was a dirt road and then
Yeah.
there were sand dunes. There's a dirt road at this place, but not at a place with sand dunes. There's sand dunes at a place that has big waves, but not big enough to warrant a life jacket, or
Yes.
whatever. Like
Yep.
he had a very, I didn't want to play his call because I think he said one or two things that he said, don't air this,
Yes.
just off the record stuff. But
On the
anyways,
side of caution.
yes.
Abundances of caution here.
Again, yeah. And thank you everybody for your contributions because that's what the show is built around.